Well, thank you so much for being here, Laurel. Good to see you, and all of you in person. It's hard to believe that a politician would say this about the press, but I'm really happy to see all of you again. Sometimes it's hard to go last on things like this because it's difficult to be original. But I've got, I think, the strongest caucus that I've ever been a part of. And I'm going to highlight a little bit of what the House Republican Caucus is going to be doing to address the problems that have been eloquently outlined so far. First of all, to go back to workforce, it doesn't really show up as much in polling, but there's probably no more widespread problem in our economy and also in the function of government and in education than the fact that we have had so many people drop out of the economy, and we are struggling with workforce shortages, both in terms of quantity and quality, in every facet of life. If you are involved in business, you know that staffing is probably the most critical problem that you have. If you are a consumer of products from the private sector or even the services of the government, you have witnessed firsthand the fact that neither sector has been able to fulfill their promises to you in the way that they have done in the past. And so I think that is the place that we have to concentrate when it comes to the economy. And one of the things that changes that we made in the House Republican Caucus this year was moving a very high quality leader, Alex Ibarra, to the Higher Ed and Workforce Committee. And one of the reasons that I did that is because the only growing part of our workforce is our Hispanic workforce. And Alex Ibarra grew up as part of that sector of our economy, and his roots are still deep in that arena. Every single time I talk to someone involved in training, I ask them if they have an outreach program to reach Hispanic youth and make sure that this part of our economy is able to access all of the training opportunities that other groups can and are so necessary to our future. We've heard a little bit about housing, and unfortunately, housing solutions, I think, have become the most ideologically driven debates in this building over the last few years. That's unfortunate because when that happens, you accomplish less. After that bad experience of the last few years, it seems like House Republicans and Democrats, and I'm sure this is happening in the Senate too, are coming together with some major efforts. They've made some personnel changes over in the Democratic caucus, and we are sticking with our thought leader in this, Andrew Barkas. And he is partnering with Democrats to find as much common ground as we possibly can to make sure that we address all of the roadblocks that make it hard to add to our inventory of housing. I think there's still going to be divisive issues. One thing that I hope happens, in the minority, you learn quickly that you don't control the agenda, so I hope that our colleagues in the majority will do this. When we have so much in common, let's address the things that we have in common that will solve problems for people in Washington first. If we have to do the ideology, we can have those arguments later, but let's make sure that we accomplish things that are important first. Last, I agree with others that have talked about education. I think there's a crisis coming. It would be hard in the private sector to deal with declining demand or even flattening demand. And we are seeing in our school systems declining enrollment. That's going to end up becoming declining revenues as well. The additional funding that was available because of COVID has masked that problem, and we agreed that we had to provide resources to make a transition. But we have got to address both the quality problem and also the fact that for whatever reason, more and more people are deciding that they don't want their children to be part of the public education system. And so I've made a major change in our approach there as well. Representative Skylar Rood, someone who has been in the forefront for our caucus in terms of thinking about how do you reach out to every child in Washington, regardless of their circumstances, is going to be our education lead this year. And I'm looking forward to a lot of bipartisan agreement with Skylar in that position. Thanks.